Dale Robertson appeared in 60 films and more than 430 television episodes, but he always called Oklahoma home.
Hollywood's Western stars had the look, the attitude, and the cowboy swagger. But some of them weren't just acting. These guys lived the cowboy life before or after their time on the silver screen. From real-life ranchers to rodeo champions, these Western legends didn't just play cowboys, they were cowboys. So, saddle up as we take a deep dive into the lives of Western actors who walked the talk, rode the ride, and lived life with the grit and dust of the Wild West. Clint Walker was the perfect image of a cowboy. Tall, strong, and with a voice that demanded attention, he became the face of Western television. His breakthrough came with the TV series Cheyenne, where he played a rugged drifter traveling through the Old West. His towering frame and quiet, tough guy persona made him an instant fan favorite. Audiences loved his no-nonsense attitude, his ability to easily take down outlaws, and that steely-eyed glare that made villains think twice. Unlike many other Western actors who needed stunt doubles for dangerous scenes, Walker often performed his own stunts, proving that he was just as tough in real life as he was on screen. But Clint Walker wasn't just acting, he was a cowboy. Born in 1927 in Hartford, Illinois, he grew up in the harsh, dusty lands of the Midwest. From a young age, he understood the value of hard work. His family wasn't wealthy, so he took on physically demanding jobs to help make ends meet. Before he ever set foot in Hollywood, Walker had already lived a life more challenging than most. He worked as a bouncer, a riverboat deckhand, and even a security officer in Las Vegas. These jobs hardened him, shaping his rugged personality and giving him the real-life toughness that would later define his on-screen characters. This natural grit and resilience made Clint Walker stand out when he got to Hollywood. He wasn't just pretending to be a cowboy, he had already lived the life. His deep, commanding voice and imposing presence set him apart from other actors, and Warner Brothers saw his potential immediately. When Cheyenne debuted in 1955, it became a massive success, making Walker a household name. He ruled television screens for years, bringing cowboy justice to the Wild West. He became one of the first TV stars to reach superstar status, admired for his acting and real-life strength and authenticity. Fans believed in him because he wasn't just playing a cowboy, he was one. However, Hollywood is a fickle place. As the years went by, the golden age of Westerns started to fade. By the late 1960s and early 1970s, audiences were moving toward new genres, and the demand for classic Westerns declined. Walker, despite being an icon, felt the shift. Offers for leading roles slowed down, and he found himself pushed into smaller parts. While many actors fought to stay relevant, taking any role they could get, Walker wasn't interested in playing weak characters or villains, just to stay in Hollywood's good graces. He was a cowboy, and if there wasn't a place for real cowboys anymore, he was happy to step away. Though he took on occasional acting roles in the 1980s and early 1990s, he never regained the stardom he once had. His last major role came in 1998 when he voiced a character in the animated film Small Soldiers. It was a fitting farewell, as his deep, authoritative voice remained one of his most recognizable traits. However, after that, Clint Walker disappeared completely from public life. Unlike many Hollywood stars who struggle with fading fame, Walker embraced a quieter existence. He wasn't interested in chasing the spotlight or making desperate comebacks. Instead, he chose a life that suited him better and brought him closer to nature. He spent his later years indulging in his love for the outdoors, enjoying horseback riding, hiking, and spending time in the mountains. His cowboy spirit never left him, even when he was no longer on TV screens. Walker's life wasn't without its challenges. In 1971, he had a near-death experience that could have ended his story far earlier. While skiing, he suffered an accident so severe that a ski pole pierced his heart. Doctors declared him dead, but in a shocking turn of events, he miraculously survived. 6 weeks later, he was back on his feet, as strong and resilient as ever. It was almost as if fate itself refused to let a cowboy like Clint Walker go so easily. For 2 decades, he lived peacefully, away from the cameras, until his passing in 2018 at 90. Though he was no longer a Hollywood star, he remained a legend in the hearts of Western fans. His story is a reminder that true cowboys never really disappear. They simply ride off into the sunset, leaving behind a legacy that refuses to be forgotten. Ken Curtis, best known for playing Festus Hagen on Gunsmoke, had a unique journey to stardom. Unlike many actors who came from city life and only played cowboys on screen, Curtis had cowboy blood running through his veins. Born in a small rural town in Colorado in 1916, he grew up surrounded by the rugged beauty of the West. His father was a sheriff, which meant young Ken spent his childhood around lawmen, ranchers, and the kind of tough, independent men who would later inspire his most famous roles. Life on the plains was hard, but it shaped Curtis into a man who knew the value of hard work, discipline, and grit. He spent his early years riding horses, working on ranches, and experiencing the kind of outdoor life that many Hollywood actors could only pretend to understand. But before he ever stepped in front of a camera, Curtis had a completely different passion: music. He had a natural talent for singing, and his voice was as smooth as a prairie sunset. While many assumed he was destined for a life on horseback, Curtis was drawn to melodies just as much as he was to the open range. His deep, rich voice caught the attention of many, and soon he was performing professionally. His big break in music came when he joined the Sons of the Pioneers, a famous Western band started initially by Roy Rogers. The group was known for its soulful cowboy-themed ballads that captured the spirit of the American West. Curtis's voice fit in perfectly, and he quickly became one of the standout members of the band. He recorded several songs with them and was well on his way to becoming a household name in country and Western music. Many believed Curtis could have had a successful singing career even if he had never acted. His voice had the kind of charm that made people stop and listen, and he knew how to command a stage. But fate had other plans for him. His love for performance eventually led him to Hollywood, where he found a new calling: acting. At first, he took on small roles in Western films, playing minor characters in the background. But it wasn't long before filmmakers realized that Curtis had something special. His rugged good looks, authentic cowboy upbringing, and powerful presence made him a natural fit for the genre. Then came Gunsmoke. In 1964, Curtis landed the role defining his career: Festus Hagen, the gruff yet lovable deputy with a distinctive twang and a heart of gold. Unlike the traditional heroic cowboys of Westerns, Festus was rough around the edges. He wasn't polished or smooth-talking, but he had a deep sense of loyalty, toughness, and humor that made him a fan favorite. His chemistry with Marshal Matt Dillon, played by James Arness, and the rest of the cast was undeniable. And soon, Festus became one of the most beloved characters on television. For years, Curtis played the part with dedication, making Festus one of the most memorable deputies in TV history. But while many actors desperately tried to cling to fame after their hit shows ended, Curtis didn't fight it. He understood that Hollywood was an unpredictable place, and he wasn't about to spend his later years chasing roles that didn't fit him. When Gunsmoke finally ended, Curtis gracefully stepped away from Hollywood instead of trying to force a second wave of stardom. He didn't want to take on roles that didn't excite him, and he certainly wasn't interested in playing characters that didn't align with his cowboy image. Instead of chasing more film roles, Curtis returned to his roots. He focused on live performances, music, and even rodeos. He would often sing at Western-themed events, captivating audiences with both his voice and his stories from Hollywood. He occasionally appeared at Gunsmoke reunions and Western fan conventions, where he was still adored by fans who had grown up watching him. Unlike many actors who struggled with the idea of fading fame, Curtis embraced it. He knew his time in the spotlight had been special, but he also knew there was more to life than Hollywood. Curtis lived the rest of his days peacefully, enjoying the simple pleasures of country life. He was never bitter about stepping away from Hollywood, nor did he regret leaving behind his days as Festus. Instead, he found happiness in doing what he loved: singing, performing, and connecting with people who shared his passion for Western culture. In 1991, Ken Curtis passed away at the age of 74. His death marked the end of an era, but his legacy remained strong. Even though he had disappeared from Hollywood long before his passing, he never truly left the hearts of his fans. His portrayal of Festus Hagen remains one of the most iconic performances in Western television history, and his contributions to Western music are still remembered fondly. Curtis proved that being a cowboy wasn't just about wearing a hat and riding a horse on screen. It was about living with integrity, passion, and a deep respect for the way of life he loved so much. Robert Horton was the handsome, charming star of Wagon Train, one of the biggest Western TV shows of its time. His rugged looks and smooth voice made him a heartthrob. But Horton wasn't just pretending to be a cowboy, he was the real deal. He was a trained horseman, expert in riding and handling livestock. Despite his real-life cowboy skills, Horton faced an uphill battle after leaving Wagon Train. Hollywood had a habit of moving on quickly, and unfortunately his career suffered. He tried to revive it through theater performances, but he never regained the same level of success. Feeling abandoned by the industry, Horton quietly stepped away from Hollywood. In later interviews, he regretted leaving Wagon Train, saying that the entertainment world never welcomed him back. He spent his final years in quiet seclusion and passed away in 2016. James Drury, famous for his legendary role as the Virginian, wasn't just another Hollywood cowboy. He was the real deal. Unlike many actors who had to learn how to ride a horse for their roles, Drury had been doing it since childhood. He was born in 1934 in New York City, but his heart always belonged to the vast open lands of the West. He grew up in Texas, where cowboy culture was a way of life, not just something seen on television. His early years were spent on a family ranch, surrounded by horses, cattle, and the hardworking men who made their living off the land. For Drury, riding wasn't just a skill, it was second nature. He could mount a horse with ease, handle a lasso like a seasoned wrangler, and carry himself with the quiet confidence of a true cowboy. While other actors took months of training to look convincing on screen, Drury was the real deal. That natural ability, combined with his striking looks and deep, commanding voice, made him a perfect fit for westerns. His big break came in 1962 when he landed the lead role in The Virginian, one of the longest-running Western TV shows in history. The show followed a mysterious, tough ranch foreman who upheld justice in the untamed West. Drury's performance was powerful. He embodied the cowboy way of life with such authenticity that fans believed he was the Virginian, not just an actor playing a part. His steely gaze, strong moral code, and fearless approach to danger made him a hero to millions. Unlike other Western shows featuring fast gunfights and outlaws, The Virginian focused on the deeper struggles of ranch life, leadership, and the values that made the West legendary. Drury stayed on the show for its entire 9-season run, from 1962 to 1971, cementing himself as one of television's greatest cowboys. But as the Western genre faded in Hollywood, finding new roles became difficult. The golden age of Westerns was ending, and studios were shifting their focus to modern dramas, crime thrillers, and sci-fi. Many actors struggled to transition, and Drury was no exception. After The Virginian, he took on smaller TV roles and guest appearances, but nothing reached the same success level. Yet, unlike some stars who desperately chased Hollywood fame, Drury never saw himself as just an actor. He was always a cowboy at heart. Instead of trying to reinvent himself in an industry that was moving on, he chose to return to his roots. He settled in Texas and fully embraced the cowboy lifestyle that had always been a part of him. He ran his own ranch, working the land and caring for his horses just like he had as a boy. He wasn't just playing a cowboy anymore, he was living it. Dale Robertson wasn't just another Hollywood cowboy, he was the real thing. Unlike many actors who had to learn how to ride horses and handle guns for their roles, Robertson was raised in the cowboy way of life. Born in 1923 in Harrah, Oklahoma, he grew up surrounded by the open land, wild Mustangs, and the hard-working spirit of the West. He spent his early years riding horses, working on ranches, and learning the skills that would later make him one of the most authentic Western stars ever to grace the screen. Before Hollywood came calling, Robertson was a rodeo rider and horse trainer. He deeply understood horses, knowing how to break them, train them, and form a bond that only true cowboys could. His natural rugged charm and cowboy toughness set him apart from the polished, city-bred actors trying to play tough guys on screen. But acting wasn't part of his original plan. When World War II broke out, Robertson put his cowboy dreams on hold and enlisted in the military. He served with bravery and dedication, earning a Bronze Star and the Purple Heart for his service. He was wounded in action and returned home after the war ended with no intention of becoming an actor. But fate had other plans. Robertson's journey to Hollywood was accidental. While recovering from his war injuries, he posed for a photograph for his mother. That photograph ended up in the window of a California photography studio, catching a talent scout's eye. His strong jawline, piercing eyes, and rugged cowboy look instantly stood out. Hollywood producers quickly realized that he didn't just look like a cowboy, he was one. Before long, he was cast in Western films, landing leading roles in movies like Tales of Wells Fargo and Iron Horse. He became a household name, beloved by fans for his tough yet noble cowboy characters. Robertson didn't have to fake anything. He knew how to ride, shoot, and carry himself like a true cowboy, making his performances feel authentic. His presence on screen wasn't just acting, it was a reflection of his life. However, unlike many actors who embraced the Hollywood lifestyle, Robertson despised it. He hated the industry's superficial nature, the endless networking, and the way actors were treated like disposable commodities. He wasn't interested in fame for fame's sake. He just wanted to work on projects that felt real. Hollywood's cutthroat business deals and fake smiles didn't fit his cowboy values. As the Western genre began to fade in Hollywood, Robertson saw the writing on the wall. He watched as studios moved away from classic cowboy films and into crime dramas, comedies, and sci-fi. He didn't fight it, unlike other actors who desperately tried to hold on to their stardom. Instead, he made a decision that shocked many. He walked away. While some actors struggled with the decline of their careers, Robertson embraced it. He didn't need Hollywood to define him. He left the glitz and glamour behind and returned to his true passion: ranch life. He settled down on his Oklahoma ranch, far away from the flashing cameras and bright lights of Los Angeles. There, he spent his time training horses, working the land, and living life on his own terms. Even after leaving Hollywood, he remained a beloved figure in the Western community. He would occasionally attend Western conventions and events, where fans would line up to meet him and hear his stories. He never regretted leaving Hollywood behind, often speaking about how much happier he was living a quiet cowboy life rather than chasing roles in an industry he no longer respected. Dale Robertson lived out the rest of his days exactly how he wanted: on horseback, breathing in the fresh country air, and away from the artificiality of Hollywood. In 2013, he passed away at the age of 89. He may have left the movie business, but he never stopped being a cowboy. His legacy remains strong, not just as a Western star, but as a man who truly embodied the cowboy way of life. Audie Murphy was not just a cowboy, he was a war hero. Before stepping into Hollywood, Murphy was the most decorated soldier of World War II. He received numerous medals for bravery, and his story was so incredible that it was turned into a film, To Hell and Back, in which he starred as himself. But Murphy's cowboy credentials didn't stop there. He was a real-life horseman, marksman, and rancher. He starred in numerous westerns and became a fan favorite. However, despite his fame, Murphy struggled with severe PTSD from the war. He turned to ranching and cowboy life as a form of therapy, preferring the quiet of the open plains over the chaos of Hollywood. Tragically, his life was cut short in a plane crash in 1971. But his legacy remains, both as a war hero and a Western legend, who truly knew what it meant to be a cowboy. These actors weren't just Hollywood cowboys, they were real cowboys. They rode, wrangled, and lived by the cowboy code on and off the screen. Some of them chose the cowboy life, while others never left it. One thing is for sure: their legacy will live on forever in the hearts of Western movie fans. If you love Westerns and real cowboy legends, don't forget to like and subscribe for more incredible stories.